Welcome to the Industrial Talk Podcast with Scott Mackenzie. Scott is a passionate industry professional dedicated to transferring cutting-edge, industry-focused innovations and trends while highlighting the men and women who keep the world moving. So put on your hard hat, grab your work boots, and let's go.
All right, once again, welcome to the next installment of Industrial Talk featuring industrial heroes. That's you. You are absolutely amazing. And you have joined the #1 industrial-related podcast in the universe that celebrates you. You're bold, brave, you dare greatly, you innovate, you collaborate, you do everything that's so... You're amazing. You're changing the world, and you're making it a better place each and every day. That's why we are here at Industrial Talk, to make sure that you are celebrated. Yeah, that's what we're all about. In the hot seat, we have a gentleman by the name of Tacoma Zach. Mentor APM is the solution, and you'll get from this conversation how passionate Tacoma is about managing your assets, which you need to do. You just need to do it. Don't be reactive. Be proactive. All of the stuff. We dive into that solution. Let's get cracking. Hey. Any technology. On Industrial Talk, any technology. I will geek out. I love it. It's an exciting time. I love industry. And if you're listening to this podcast and you're thinking, well, what do I do? What I say, you dive in. You dive in to industry. Find that niche that you fill. And just get all in it, Be all in it. And if you're already in industry, just keep going. Keep educating, collaborating, and innovating. And boy, it's a renaissance out there. Speaking of that, and I'm going to make this quick because I got to put it on your in your head, and that is we are launching the Industrial News Network, INN. And the reason for that is that industry's moving fast. Information has to keep up with it. Information is not keeping up with it. It's all fragmented over here. I can't find the answers that I need. Here it is, INN, Industrial News Network. It's all about speed. It's all about getting that information out. It's all about the fact that you need to connect with the right people that said, yeah, I need to talk to that person. I need help. I need to solve this problem. Because it is happening fast, and we, in industry, need to keep up and keep that energy going. We need to inspire the next gen of leaders. And inspire you. I mean, it's an exciting time. I just said Industrial News Network. We have a landing page out there. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. But you want to be a contributor, and I'll point this out. An individual that is just going to give some quick insights into what's happening in the news, make it happen. Contact me. Just go out to Industrial Talk. Reach out, and you want to be a contributor, you let me know. I want to talk to you. All right, on to the conversation. Tacoma Zach, Mentor APM. And it's a good conversation. He's quite peppery when it comes to talking about asset management and that solution. So here is Tacoma. Hey, Tacoma, welcome to Industrial Talk. Thank you very much for finding time in your busy schedule to talk to the best, and I mean the best, listener base in all of industry. They are fantastic. They're wonderful. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing okay. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. And I'm looking forward to this conversation. I can never have enough chit-chat around asset management, reliability, how to do it better. Let me just tell you, just long ago in a galaxy far, far away, I was doing a project up in Columbus, Ohio. I was a managing director with Price Waterhouse. We were deploying, if this makes any sense, we were deploying a product called Indus Passport.
Sounds
Indus Patch with
vaguely
people
familiar.
linking to PeopleSoft for the ERP. And of course, and this was for the utility company up there, American Electric Power, if I remember. Yeah, American Electric Power. And we were trendsetters with that Indus Passport. I don't know if I don't think it was.
I do remember the name, but I never had the pleasure of actually using it.
It wasn't a pleasure. No pleasure. None.
Yeah.
You can rest assured there was no pleasure in that.
I was trying to be generous.
Yeah. Well done. And what's so funny about the whole thing is that I remember having conversations about, well, how do we send data from Indus Passport to PeopleSoft, which I can't remember what it turned into, and then vice versa. We were like, that was customization. That was next level stuff. And nowadays it's like, no big deal. All right.
Yep.
Before we get into Mentor APM, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about where did Mentor come from. But give us background, Tacoma, on who you are.
Sure. Well, my background, as we chatted a little bit about earlier, graduate chemical engineer from University of Toronto. Spent most of my career actually in contract operations through a series of companies that through acquisitions eventually ended up being Veolia. Worked overseas a little bit with them, came back here, did a couple of stints in and out, and got into asset management back in the early aughts. I was VP of development actually at the time, and colleague of mine was trying to lead the company into the best of the best. And at the time, I think the international standard was past 55. Shortening up the story, I started my own engineering company back sort of in the about 2005, and I started getting into this stuff. And then 2012, in and out of Veolia a little bit, ran their industrial business group in the West. So the Exxons, the Chevrons, they were my customers from 8 to 12. And then in 2013, I took over a little company called Herbalytics that was a spin out from Veolia. And it was all the best ways that we had come up with for doing risk and criticality analysis. In fact, we piloted it a couple of times at ExxonMobil. And I mean, that's that's the acid test. They're probably the most exacting customer I've ever had. Anyway, that we turned that into a nice business. And then we sort of said, you know what, we see the market has a need for a solution that has it all in one wrapper. So we looked at and said, our personal experience was, man, we're having to use Oracle or SAP or IBM or whatever the brand is. And they did a couple of things right and a couple of things good, but they never did everything together. So as I was running the business in the West, there was a need for me to be able to make decisions. There was a need for me to be able to understand what was going on with the plants and the projects and the assets themselves. And we cobbled together some, bespoke stuff, but there wasn't anything that unified everything together. So we said, you know what, we can do that. We'll build that thing. So that's what we did back in 2017. And so my entire background, which is contract operations and municipal and industrial, and asset management and P&Ls and all that, it's all kind of pushed into that. We sort of said, let's imbue the software with what we always wanted. I've always hated rework. I've always hated having to do things manually, that kind of stuff. So I figured if we can automate this stuff, if we can preload things, if we can get people to be able to make decisions better by having things ready at hand, then I'm a happy guy.
Take us through Mentor APM. Why Mentor? What? And honestly, because I've had a number of conversations, it's a pretty busy market out there when it comes to these platforms, and it's hard for me to see the differentiation of why this is better, that is better, and I mean it's pretty noisy out there. Take us a little bit Mentor APM and on into that.
Yeah, absolutely spot on observation about the marketplace. It is a busy place, and there are software companies that keep popping up, and a lot of them do one or two things pretty well, and some of this stuff is basically like table stakes that you have to have if you're going to compete in this market at all. If you're going to deliver something, well, we don't want to do paper anymore. We don't want to do Excel. We want to do work orders. So that's kind of like the beginning of it. And there's a lot of folks there. But you asked the question earlier, like why Mentor APM? So when my business partner John Clow and I got together, actually it's a really good story how we started, because this is like one of those great things. So I was actually doing work as Uberlytics. I was doing work for a customer, and they had said, well, hey, we want to do asset management as we run our facilities. And they were a regional facility. They had a number of things that they were doing, networks and plants and things like that. And so I said, well, what do you want to do? I mean, how do you want to manage this thing? And sort of the question is like, well, what do you want to do when you grow up? And they said, well, we're not entirely sure. So I said, well, here's all the things that you can do. So I took them from A to Z with the kinds of ways in which we took customers from call it a reactive mode to a very much more of a proactive posture. And so we covered a gamut of things. And then I sort of pointed up on the wall and I said, well, these are all the things you do. And what do you want to do? And they said, well, we want to do that thing over there, which kind of looked like RCM-ish a little bit, much more considered. And well, I said, well, there isn't anything on the market that does that kind of stuff. And I said, but I think I can build it for you. So John and I got together and we said, well, look, what are the names out there? Well, there's like Oracle, and there's like, well, we know stuff. And then there's, when you look at Maximo, it's like, we're big at Maximus and kind of stuff. Yeah. So we looked at the name Mentor and we said, you know what? It's all the best practices, all the best stuff that we ever did at Veolia. And with industrial and municipal customers, that's all the stuff that needs to be in there, and it needs to guide the folks along the way to go from where they're at today to mature and help them along the way. And so we said, you know what? I think we came up with a name, and let's call it Mentor. And that's how we came up with the name.
Well, that's pretty cool. Now let's start taking into sort of some nuts and bolts about it. Okay, I'm a company. I'm an industrial company. I have this vision that I want to be more proactive in my reliability thinking and
yep.
Stop being reactive, which I want you to know that has always been the question forever. It's always, we still have the same questions today that I had 20 years ago. It is, some people do it well, some people, and it comes and goes and ebbs and flows, but I'm a company. I'm passionate. I've got the right people in place. And I look at Mentor and I'm saying to myself, I'm interested. I see the functionality. Take me through an implementation. Take us through, is it gonna be 18 months like all implementations take? Or is there some, efficiencies here?
Excellent question. Since you sort of set it up, they're saying, "Hey, we want to do an implementation." It's then the starting point is that they recognize they want to understand more about their assets, and they want to be able to make the right decisions about those assets so that they can actually take a proactive posture with them and not be in a reactive mode. So there's a whole bunch of things that we can go into, and it's all the theoretical stuff with failure modes and RCM stuff and what kind of condition assessments and blah, 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 and prioritization. So I just mentioned prioritization. So our implementation, our record is actually 29 days. So we know we can stand this up really quickly. We've developed a lot of tools to be able to consume their assets very quickly. Preloaded out of Mentor comes a full-on asset library of every asset type that you'd come across. And I mentioned ExxonMobil before. Everything that we've got in here at some point came through the crucible of being vetted in an ExxonMobil style environment, if not actually at ExxonMobil. Like I said, they were probably the most exacting customer that I've personally ever worked with. And so we look at that and say, okay, one, out of the box, you're going to have all your asset types. So we just match up your assets with the asset types. That means we have all your failure modes already in the software. That means based on failure modes, we have all the things you should inspect about those assets already in there, ready to go. We also have all the rates at which those components of those assets can fail. And so once we have that, just consume the assets and match them up. All that extra work, which can take a year, sometimes 2 years for a consulting company to develop and do, if you don't have it done already yourself, out of the box like that. The day you turn it on, you can literally go 100 miles an hour. And the way in which we've done it internally is it's really, I call them RCM grade libraries. And the reason is we so believe in the process, because when you think about it, it's the reason why the airplanes are staying in the air.
Thank goodness.
Go back, exactly. And Nolan and Heap, their seminal work, all that other kind of stuff. So we look at that and go like, why aren't we using more of that? And just the simple logic about, hey, here's how an asset fails. This is what I should inspect about it. Therefore, this is what I'm going to go out and do to this thing. And then there's the prioritization part. We can talk about that as well. But that's something that we engage with the customer afterwards and then say, but really, our record is 29 days. However, every customer has a comfort level with that, and they can, slow us down. We know how to build a race car, and we can put you in the seat and take it for a test spin, make some tweaks, that sort of stuff. But a lot of customers seem to want to know what color the door handle is going to be and what color the steering wheel is going to be. And well, I don't want that version, I want this version. And that's okay. It just tends to drag things out, but not because of us.
Common tale.
Yeah.
There's conversations around, and it's, I have some friends that are passionate about doing the asset management, blocking and tackling, the real, disciplined type of approach to managing assets, and believe that the technology, like the IIoT devices that are sitting on those assets, spinning out data, determining whatever the, real-time condition of that asset. Where does Mentor APM fit? Are we pulling data off of those assets through those devices, or is it a mixture of,
So it's a whole smattering of things. So first off, you mentioned the word, I think, discipline, or the rigor involved. We like to think that we bring.
I'll interrupt because she thinks she's a good friend. If you probably know her, she thinks that we're looking for that silver bullet, and the silver bullet is all this sort of technology, and we forget that there's some basic principles of RCM that are necessary.
Yes.
There.
So we like to think that we bring the discipline of business thinking into the physical asset realm. So if you look at a business, for instance, they have a charter, they know their mission, they have objectives, and they have values. And these are the things that guide every single decision within a company. Somehow that seems to get lost when we start thinking about, physical assets. It just happens more often than we wish.
Yeah.
So what we do is we come back and say, look, you've got a lot of sensors that are out in the field. And by the way, we can consume any IoT device, any SCADA stuff. It comes into Mentor, and we log, we capture any and all of that information. The trick is you'll be scattershot and you'll shotgun stuff if you don't organize not only your thinking, but if you don't organize yourself. So prioritization was the biggest win we had when we were doing this for ourselves. Hundreds of customers, hundreds of different P&Ls, very varied, from municipal to heavy industrial. And so we found that we needed to do the prioritization. So we did a criticality and risk analysis first of everything, but an ISO sensitive or calibrated version. So in other words, what's the mission? What is the values that the corporation and the customer holds? Because when you determine what's important to you, that determines what's critical. So you change, we don't care about safety, then none of the safety stuff is important. right?
Yeah, the air conditioning in the president's office is not a high criticality asset, but and then you have to have those conversations with a collective team to be able to truly
Yes.
and objective to determine that criticality. That pump is more important than that pump based off of this logic. And
Yes.
everybody shakes their head. Yes, that's right. Therefore, the focus is going to be different on that asset versus this.
Right. And what we like to do is, when the ISO uses a phrase called stakeholders.
Yeah.
And when we look at it, we say, okay, well, what are the stakeholders? Well, the staff safety, the staff, they're, we want to make sure they go home the same day, the same way they came to work. There's public safety. There is the regulatory. There's the environmental. There's corporate profits. So that's, how much is this thing going to cost me? There's PR. You don't really want your name in the media, right? So these are things to take into consideration. And then when you evaluate a facility in that light and say, okay, well, when these things go upside down and don't do what they're supposed to do, how bad is the impact? What's the worst way? We have a way of doing it that we've sort of fashioned after an RCM approach that let us do analysis extremely quickly and very, very accurately. So much so that within a few days to a very short amount of weeks, we can do a massive asset portfolio very quickly and know exactly where the important assets are, because we look at it from a system perspective. And therefore, the important systems are where the important assets are. And if it's an unimportant system, unimportant assets, you just ignore them for now. Focus on the stuff that's really important. And then that prioritization brings two things out. One, it tells you where your critical assets are, because the ones that basically are going to upset the apple cart based on the factors you care about, the values and the mission. That tells you where you need to focus your maintenance spend. And then when you look at the stuff and say, oh, over the last 10 years, these things have, kicked us in the teeth, and these things are we're at risk in these areas. Well, where you are at risk, that's where you should spend some money. That's where your capital starts going. So when we did that, we had on average 20% savings out of our budgets, and we had more stable operations, fewer NOVs, the whole 9 yards. That's what we have built into Mentor. That's what we offer the customers, is the ability to do this. And we don't tell them where their critical assets are. They're the experts in their own system. They know that if their business climate changes and all of a sudden safety is way more important next year than it is this year, or something happens environmentally, well, we want to make sure environmental stuff, is great. Readjust a couple of the factors, boom, everything comes back out. New list comes out in a different ranked order, and away you go. It's literally that fast.
Yeah, and that's good. That's very cool, because sometimes in the real world, it's that gnashing of teeth to determine these assets, the criticality of these assets, and getting everybody on the same page. But it's vitally important for the focus and the money, the capital, to be able to find its way to the right to the assets. And I agree with you 100% on that. And it's interesting. There are still companies that don't determine their asset criticality rating. It blows my mind.
Well, I agree. And part of the reason why I think that is, and you know what? Pardon me. I just get so excited about this stuff. I just cut you off. I apologize. Yes, I just love this stuff. I think part of the reason is the tools out there are insufficient. Like, we developed this stuff, and we spent our own money, and we made our own financial decisions on this. So we refined. So we know what we have has worked at hundreds of facilities with our own money, our own P&Ls, and our own careers. And I think there's a lot of misunderstanding out there about what the difference is between risk and criticality. And I hear things, and I'm going like, dude, you're double counting. That's really not. When I hear the phrase, the risk of failure, I'm thinking to myself, going like, well, hold on a minute now. Failure is something that happens, and the likelihood of that failure happening is a separate number, and the consequence of that failure gets multiplied by the likelihood, and then you get risk. So when you say risk of failure, you've just about double counted.
Yeah,
you've conflated some things together. So clarity of thinking is really important.
Yeah, And I agree with that 100%. It's as I have these conversations about technology, about the innovation, about how we proceed forward in the world of asset management. I'm always I'm I'm always aware of the human component. All of this stuff makes sense. It is the right thing to do from a business perspective. What gums the work up is our people. And it's always that change management that is so vital. Does Mentor APM, the implementation, take into consideration this change management reality?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So we do this in a number of ways, because if you don't get adoption, you haven't done anything positive for the customer. So one is on the prioritization, on the risk and criticality analysis. We ask the customer, this is your facility. You guys tell us what's significant to you. You tell us when that failed, how important was that? It's your data. We just facilitate. We give some guidance. And so what we've done in that process happens every time. The silos come down, the people begin to understand, those from engineering, from operations, from health and safety, from maintenance. They begin to understand each other's world, and they begin to all sort of get onto the same page, because the analysis doesn't go forward without agreement. That's one part. The second part is launching and pushing things out piecemeal. So, for instance, when we do an implementation, we've got a fair amount of training at the end, just before, as it's launching, but we tailor things to, like, okay, here's what you're going to do, and this is what it is, and here's a mobile device. Can you turn your mobile device on? Yes, you know how to turn it on. Okay, well, then let's log in. And it's one step at a time, and we limit it to what they're actually going to do. So there's super users, and there's the sort of rank and file, and then there's the sort of slightly heavier users. But we educate them on the parts that they're supposed to use, and we guide them along the way. So we give them a demo environment, or I should say, like a stage environment where they can try anything that they want. It doesn't matter if they make mistakes, and eventually they get released to the real environment. But we are always there for hand holding. But when we talk about this philosophy of asset management and doing things differently, the moment you change the way somebody does business, they're no longer the expert, right? So it's like, hey, we've been doing this thing for 20 years. I feel comfortable. I can phone it in, and I'm the expert. The moment you change, you've upset the ground that they stand on. So we often offer call it an asset management 101 course. It's a couple hours here and there, or it could be 8 hours, whatever. For anybody who wants to come in, and customers have actually taken us up on this thing, and we give them to sort of the nuts, from the nuts and bolts kind of stuff, the A to Z thing. And what we do is we always make it applicable to their home life. So we talk about how they make decisions at home, how they make decisions about their cars. Cars are a fabulous analogy for physical assets, because they are one, and everybody owns one, right? And so we make it very personal for them. And then the light bulbs come on and go like, oh yeah, this is what I do at home. Why wouldn't we do this at work as well like this? Okay, I get it. I understand. And then we try to make it fun and, engaging for them. So on those three fronts.
It's vital. And it's for a sustained reliability culture. Yeah, it's always the people. Question. Yes. I'm a company. I've got an ERP. We spent $1 gazillion, no less than $1 gazillion on our ERP. How easy does the Mentor APM solution interact with my ERP? Because I spent $2 gazillion on it, and everybody hates it.
Well, there's probably a 3-letter acronym you're thinking of, but that's okay. So first of all our APIs are published, and almost everything from our entire EAM, all the different modules that we have, from mobile and GIS and asset performance management stuff, the asset investment planning stuff, the criticality and risk analysis. It's all modular in the sense that we can bolt on and we can supplement where a customer finds that their existing application is a little bit short. So we recognize there are going to be installs that we're not going to lift out. People are too emotionally invested.
That's That's too easy. See, that's back to my Indus passport analogy in the beginning. We could never do that. No, we didn't. We didn't have.
In fact, there's something that we developed recently. So getting asset information is super important because ultimately, at the end of the day, that's the reason why the facilities exist. They're there to make stuff. And you got to understand what's going on with your assets so you can figure out, hey, is this thing degrading or not? Do I need to do something with it or not? Beyond just the, like, I got to replace filters and oil and things. And so we were out doing an asset walk down and investigation. And our ability to capture very deep information is second to none, down to the component level, failure modes, the whole 9 yards, everything, and what condition it's in. And it's all menu driven and stuff. But we recently created something called Mentor Lens that lets you go out and just take photos of stuff. And it'll take plate data. It'll take condition assessment. If you throw a little $200 thermography camera onto your phone, it'll do thermography, for you out the. So the cool part is, though, it builds a register on the fly. So you can either just go out and use this, regardless of what you've got as your install base. We're thinking of some 3-letter acronyms.
Yep.
And here's an asset register, export, API, push that stuff in if they have buckets to, spots to hold it. Or we can consume the existing register and do the same thing. And it's literally designed for the most sophisticated customer, as well as the smallest, most resource strained customer or constrained customer.
I was getting ready. I said, "Oh my gosh, he's going to say non-sophisticated individual."
No. Sometimes they're short on they're resource constrained on bench strength, but they want to do the right things. They just don't have the tools and the budget.
On-prem or in cloud or both?
In the cloud, it's the best way to go forward. It helps us. We can do an on-prem if a customer doesn't want anything going over the fence line, but everything is cloud. People don't even know they do know because we tell them in advance, but you don't even feel it when the upgrades have happened.
It's brilliant. It's happening on cloud. Come on.
Yep. Well,
just do it, listener.
There is a the thing is, you got to look at it and say, where's the industry heading? Cloud was definitely where it was heading. That's one thing we look at. A lot of the legacy applications, they're trying to go to cloud. And so some of them, what they have done is they've said, oh, here's our instance. We'll put it in the cloud for you. And by the way, we're going to take another version of this thing and stick it in the cloud for somebody else. And they still have to do the same software updates, bang, 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 one at a time. Yeah. For ours, we are true multi-tenant. So one update, everybody gets it, and nobody can see each other. I mean, our security is weapons grade, so to speak.
Well, one last question: where do you see it going? What's on the horizon for Mentor APM? Like, what? Come on, give us some scoop.
Well, so product-wise, I would say we've gone sort of end to end now. So we are all from GIS related stuff through what we are terming now as the 1/2 step behind the global gold standard on asset investment planning. We already have more in there than I think any of our competitors do. And the next iteration is to have one button that will prioritize all the projects based on how much risk they reduce in the optimal order, based on a whole series of constraints with some Monte Carlo simulation stuff going in there as well. Customer doesn't have to do anything. But where I see the industry going, and this is, it's on everybody's mind, is AI. And we made a conscious decision to sort of wait and see a little bit of what's going on with AI. And I've got a bit of a bone to pick with some elements of the industry and some of the stuff going out there. So while everyone's looking at all these, the AI tools, and sometimes people are just, slapping something on and they end up thinking, oh, no, I put a chatbot in my thing and I've got some AI and isn't this wonderful? The trick is you really have to understand what these models can do. And what we've done is we've taken the quite honestly, like literally every month, the leading edge of what these LLMs can do. And we are constantly updating, constantly upgrading, and constantly making our application be at the bleeding edge of what's capable. And so what we've done is the ability to literally just as fast as you can take photos, go ahead and just take photos of stuff for plate data, level 2 condition assessment, thermography, and it does it in seconds. So what would normally take us anywhere from 5 to an hour, 5 minutes to an hour, now it literally happens in about 2 minutes, period. And what that does is it not only increases the accuracy, but it is a tremendous force multiplier for our customers. So we did a couple of ROIs, and in one case, it's like, oh, if you limit it to 4 people, you're going to be 10x faster. But if you give it to more people, now you're way over 100x faster. So not only do you get data every single day that you got maybe once a year, thermography,
Yeah.
you're now in a posture of being proactive because you can tell when that connector is starting to get hot and you're going to deal with it before it shuts that pump down, because that pump going down is actually going to shut your plant down. So, and anything that's going on with rotating assets, because thermography is like this surrogate of what's going on internally, right? Yeah, well,
Yeah.
the temperature is going up. Well, why is it? Well, it could be oil, or it could be, whatever's going on, grease, or vibration. So I'm going to do a second test on it, but it's a leading indicator, which is just so awesome. Which means here's the other cool part. We were at a facility the other day, and I realized I was 40 feet away from the assets because I was looking after my hearing. I didn't want to go down into the well. So I'm taking this thermograph, which was absolutely accurate because I had somebody take a shot close by. I didn't have to go within 5 feet of this thing. I was 40 feet away. I didn't have to climb over anything. It is a massive safety improvement for staff because you can hang back, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's one thing. So I think what we're doing is continually advancing the bleeding edge of what the LLMs can do. But here's my contention. There are promises being made out there by some software vendors that say, oh, we're going to predict when your assets are going to fail. And I'm like, I know MTEL, which became part of AspenTech, and I know a lot of these other software predictive tools. Well, they use machine learning. And unless you are looking at the data for 12 to 24 months, and you are babysitting it like crazy, saying, oh, well, wait a second now, this was a false negative, this was a false positive, and you've got to clean it all up. Even MTEL and those, what I at the time considered the best of the best, they had to do the same thing. So to say to someone, oh, well, just turn it on and we're going to predict, I find is misleading, and I think does our industry a bit of a disservice. So I think integrity is really, really important. This is what we do. We can back it up, say what you mean and mean what you say, kind of stuff, and then don't make these false claims. That does everybody better. So LLMs are not designed to make these types of predictions. We can, however, forecast because we have this complete library of stuff internally that says, oh, this component degrades at this rate. By the way, these two components are driving your asset to failure the soonest based on these factors of stuff that you've collected, real data. And that tells you need to act on this thing before it collapses if it's important enough. So I think the AI tool set that is available is where we're doing some focus. We built out about as much as we can build out on, we call it traditional types of decision-making tools, a little tweak here and there, that kind of stuff. But I think for us, leveraging AI in a responsible way, in fact, that's one of our internal mantras, is responsible AI. The human always gets the last look, and the tool is built for what it's supposed to do, not for some extraneous thing.
I like it. Okay. We got to wrap it up. Tacoma.
Sorry.
No.
I see, like my kids say, Dad, you're monologuing.
Shut the front door. Stop it. No, I know you're not monologuing. How do people get a hold of you, Tacoma? They're saying, I want to know more. I want to connect with Tacoma.
Well, go to our website, MentorAPM.com. All the information's there on how to get a hold of us. And I think our phone numbers are actually on there, so you can actually get a hold of me, or you can actually text me or call me at 480-414-4636, or email me at Tacoma.Zach with an H at MentorAPM.com. But I think the easiest way is just hit the website.
Okay. What about LinkedIn?
Yes, we're on LinkedIn. Okay. I'm there as Tacoma Zach or Mentor, or any one of my connections. I'm sure that you'll be able to find me. I'm the only one that I know with the first name Tacoma, so that's a pretty easy way to get a hold of me.
I sent a notification that I want to be a part of your network, and not many people. Tacoma, Washington pops up.
Yep, this is true. Yep. Completely off topic.
Talk to me.
I realized the other day, I've never shared the room with someone with my own name. somebody named Steve, Doug, Phil, they're sharing the room. Never experienced it.
See, that's pretty cool. Well, there you go, Tacoma. You are absolutely wonderful. Thank you very much for being on Industrial Talk.
Well, it was a pleasure, and thank you for letting me go on once in a while. I'm pretty passionate about this stuff.
Yeah, and it's lovely. It's absolutely lovely. All right, listeners, we're going to wrap it up on the other side. Stay tuned. We're going to have all the contact information for Tacoma out on Industrial Talk. So you need, as you could tell, you need to connect with him. He's a must connect. So stay tuned. We will be right back.
You're listening to the Industrial Talk Podcast Network.
Your call to action. Your call to action is reach out to Tacoma and that fine team at Mentor APM. Yep, you need it. You just do. Stop lollygagging. Stop being concerned about, but we have a legacy system. But here it is. Here's a solution for you. You just do it. Reach out to him. Yeah, you won't be disappointed. You can tell he likes what he does. It's a fun conversation, as always. All right, a couple of things. Industrial News Network, be on the lookout. You want to be a contributor? Yeah, let me know. Go out to industrialtalk.com. 2, you're saying to yourself, Scott, hey, do you have an ebook? Yes, I do have an ebook. It's out on Industrial Talk. It's about these successful companies that I've interviewed over 3,000 times. It's still down. It's not 3,000. It's still down. Go out, get it. It's free. I won't spam you. Be bold, be brave, dare greatly. Hang out with Tacoma. Change the world. We're going to have another great conversation shortly, so, stay tuned.